What up, people? What's good? Salute.
Yes, sir.
Yo, what's good, everybody? Salute to the tribe. We're hip hop and comics and hip hop. We're a niche channel. We're a niche channel. And reserved for the best is super dope. I do sell comics. Check me out on Instagram at @6th_element_comics. Yeah, because comic books are the sixth element of hip hop. What's good, everybody? Sixth element of hip hop here. I'm your host, Reno Noir. This is your co-host right here, Stu Dog. Over here. What up, Stu?
What up?
It is it's our first show since the Halloween special, which was a lot of fun, and we will definitely be doing one next year with proper planning to prevent piss poor performance, and that'll be fun. It's the only holiday I really care about, to keep it a buck. Like, I couldn't give a flying fuck about Thanksgiving. Christmas is just a corporate holiday to get everyone to spend their money on crap they don't need, and the rest of it are Easter. Come on. It's Halloween for me, man. That's the only one that I enjoy celebrating. It's the only one that I think, as a culture, we actually need. Every culture has a Halloween or some type of holiday where they, they got the Day of the Dead, and there's just every culture has its own sort of holiday where they take a moment to celebrate the macabre and do the weird stuff and step out of reality and make and just celebrate the odd shit and the oddballs and the freaks, and it's a release. It's almost like the purge. I think society sort of needs that, man. So I give it up for Halloween. Shout out to Halloween.
Yeah, it's a relaxing holiday, man. I think some people take it out of context, but
they take it and want to make it something evil or negative, but no, it's a release.
Yeah, nah, man. It's just just go get some candy, dress up real weird, have a good day.
That's it.
That's all it's about. It's about nothing. There you go, just like that. Ain't about nothing else.
Throw a goatee on.
Right, you can do that too. That's what I'm gonna do next year. Throw a goatee on.
That's it. Throw a goatee on. Do what you gotta do. I mean, you can go all out. You can really go all out.
And some people do. Some people go all the way out, man. Some people go all the way out, man. Some people, yeah.
They never come back.
I just, yeah. Same thing with Christmas. Some people go all out, man, with the lights and everything.
Do they ever? Yeah.
Yeah, they go
millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars and shit. Crazy shit.
Yeah, they ain't playing no games when it comes to Christmas, man. I've seen some things, especially with the invention of YouTube. I've seen some things that have amazed me.
Right.
And had we not had YouTube, I would have never saw it.
Right. Well, guys, as you see from our thumbnail, we are going to talk about Tales of the Jedi because it is probably the best thing that we've gotten from Star Wars, from Lucasfilm, since The Mandalorian. If you want to talk about Andor, but definitely the best animated thing, I mean, we've had in a long time. But this is up there with Mandalorian and Andor for me. You know what I mean? Like, this is far beyond better than the Obi-Wan or the Boba Fett show. The only complaint that I have with Tales of the Jedi, and we'll get all into it all. We're gonna deep dive, guys. We're gonna go way into it. I'm gonna really break it all down. But it's too short. That's the only complaint.
Yeah.
It's not long enough. It should be longer. But that's a compliment in disguise. Right? Because, like, we want more. So
it is. They are short, but you know what, Reno? For the life of me, I can't figure out why, when they do anything with the CGIs, and it's so damn short. Like, when they were on Cartoon Network, man, we got 30 minutes plus every episode. I don't get
I mean,
I don't get
they
why
were
now
shorts. They're
Disney.
like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know
But
why
I mean,
Disney. I mean, well, if you
it's
put it on, well, if
advertised
you put
as
it,
shorts, you know.
I was gonna say if you put it on Cartoon Network, it's about a half hour with commercials.
That's true. That's true, but it is advertised as a series of shorts. So, it's not like I'm saying that, they made a show and it was supposed, and oh, these just too short. They're shorts. So, I would like to have seen this developed into a full-fledged show. But that is my only sort of complaint, because other than that, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's just love it. We'll get into it in a second. But hip hop and comics, man. So, not a big fan of the Migos personally, but we
Whoa, whoa,
another
whoa,
die.
whoa, whoa!
Yeah.
I like the
Yeah.
Migos,
Takeoff
man.
from the Migo. Well, I'm just saying I'm not a fan. I'm not a big fan, but they're not I'm not to say that. Just saying, Takeoff, the one member of the group that you never really hear much about. You always hear Quavo and Offset, because he's with what's her name, and they're always, but Takeoff was the one that was sort of the sort of laid back dude. And I'm only not a super
He
fan
was
of the
the
Migos,
he
because
was the
I'm
one you heard the least. He's the one you heard the least amount about. To
that's what
be
I'm
honest
saying.
with
Right.
you, yeah,
That's what I'm
out of
saying.
all of them.
You didn't really hear a lot about him. He played the background, and that's sort of the biggest tragedy, that he wasn't really that, dude that was all out there in your face, and you know what I'm saying. And he's the one that caught the stray, and it's sad, man, because it's another rapper, and how many years, like these last 2 years, I feel like we've just been losing rappers at an alarming rate. Because it wasn't all, like when Pac and Big died, that was huge. Remember? Like it wasn't
Yeah,
normal for rappers to die. You know what I'm saying? Like that, and especially getting shot. Like that wasn't as normal as you would think it would be. Based on some of the content. But no, it's been weird lately. It's been like one
well,
after
not well.
another.
We know when you go back, man. It started with Scott LaRock. Man, once it seemed like once Scott got killed, we all, and then I think after Scott we had Trouble T. Roy, and then Big L. Well, Big L, then Trouble T. Roy. Like
Yeah,
it wasn't. It became a thing where we
yeah.
knew it could
Then
happen,
Jam
but
J,
right, Jam J, we knew it could
Freaky
happen.
Ty,
Freaky Ty,
Big
yeah,
Pun. I mean,
man,
if you're talking
Big
about just
Pun.
deaths, but getting shot, that's different.
Yeah, getting
Yeah,
shot. Getting shot. We got to go to Scott
yeah.
LaRock.
Jam
You know what I
J,
mean?
yeah.
JMJ, Biggie, Pop.
Hmm.
The latest takeoff.
Big L.
Big L. Juice, not Juice World. What's my man? Yeah, Juice World.
Nah, he
Um,
OD'd. He OD'd.
did he? Who was?
Yeah.
I'm thinking that. I
X
know it's not Juice
Tentacion.
World. Who was the one
X.
that? Who was the one that?
X.
Was
X
he the one that was in?
Tentacion.
Was he the one that was in Cali? And he
He's the
did
one that
his.
got
He
shot. He got robbed and shot and
robbed and
killed.
shot
It
at his
was
crib, right?
No, he was actually, I think he was in Florida, at a place buying, he was in there buying some dirt bikes or something like that, and he came out and they shot him.
That's right.
That's
That's
X
right. I remember
Tentacion.
that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was the one?
Shot him in the
Who was the
Bugatti.
one that? Who was the one that got shot? He did an unboxing on his Instagram at his
Oh
crib,
yeah.
and they saw the address. Somebody saw the address.
Was that Pop Smoke? Or
Pop Smoke. Yeah, that was Pop Smoke. Yeah,
was
and
it
they
Pop?
came in.
I know the one
It
you're
was Pop
talking about.
Smoke. Yeah, he
Might have
was
been
out
Pop
because he. It was Pop Smoke because he was in Cali when it happened.
Smoke. Hmm.
He was staying. He was staying like at an Airbnb or something. He was out there. I don't know, recording whatever he was doing out there. But
Yeah.
they got the address off the package that he had,
Yeah.
and they
And Nipsey Hussle was the worst.
Nipsey Nipsey was the worst. Yeah, I
Oh,
would
that
have
was a
to honestly
tragedy.
say that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's sad that hip hop is like that, but um, the Migos, they were they paid their dues, man. I had to say, I'm gonna be honest. Everything you hear now, everybody bit off of them. People talk about Lil Wayne, they talk about this, but the Migos, they started all that, man. They were the
They're
ones
big in
doing all
Atlanta.
that.
Yeah.
They're big, and they're from Florida, big in Atlanta. So it's just a thing where you look back at what they did as kids and then came up. Like their whole style, the way they dress, everybody dressed like Migos. They don't like to admit it, but everybody bit.
Yeah,
They bit a lot off.
yeah,
I had to get them credit. 'Cause I had to say they were the
yeah,
last. They were the
yeah. They
last.
came.
They were the last of that new generation of rappers that actually put out good music. Everything after that was mumble rap and just an
Yeah,
emulation of what they did. Like literally,
yeah,
you can go back, you can check the record. Everything was an emulation of what Migos did, and
yeah.
it took them a long time to get on, man. I
Yeah,
mean, it
they
took them a
didn't
long
bust
time.
onto the scene until 2013 with Versace.
Yeah,
That was when
but
they really
before
came
that,
out.
if you listen to the yeah, if you listen to the mixtape wise, it was on the scene for a long time, man. But they was paying their dues, and then when they finally
Yeah,
got
I
their
mean
big break, that's what that Versace joint. You're right.
they got
That's when they got
together
their
in
break.
'08, and they were underground. Like they were in '08, they were trying to come out. Like '08 to 2013, they were trying to come out. Versace was their first hit that came out and put them on the scene. And then 3
Yeah, that
years
put them on
later, they
a
had Bad
yeah.
and Bougie, and that's
Because
when
before
they
that, like
put
I
Lil
said,
Uzi Vert on. Lil Uzi Vert came out on that,
yep,
and he came
yes
out
he did.
so and then that was a huge internet, sensation, and gave birth to, a multitude of memes that
What we
played
got
off
now?
the lyrics, the raindrop, drop top, and
Yeah,
but yeah, you got
they did a joint. They did a
yeah,
joint with
Pop
Gucci
Smoke,
Man.
Nipsey, XXXTentacion, Gucci Man.
Yeah, but you gotta get Amigos credit for what they did, man. You gotta really, really get them credit for where they at, man. They started a culture that's alive to this day. Um, it seemed like it ain't dying, but um, I guess
Yeah,
every generation has their greats that's gone too soon and not here long enough. So
yeah. Shout out to
so rest,
Takeoff, man.
yeah, yeah. Shout out, rest in beats, take off,
Or
man, and stop the violence, everybody, man. All you rappers need to get
seriously,
together today and do a stop the violence movement like we did back in the day and keep it moving, man. I guess rappers now think they're indestructible. So I mean, I guess that's what it is. You know.
yeah. Well, and not only rappers, I just want to also shout out, man, because Monday, well, this was like Thursday, down the road, one of my son's like fellow, classmates in high school, here, 17-year-old kid, uh, went missing. His parents dropped him off in the projects down the road at like 3:30 in the afternoon. They never saw him again. And that was like Thursday. Monday, after just yesterday, they found a body in the bushes in the projects, uh, that was so badly decomposed after only like 2-3 days out there, that they had to identify him. So they're positive. They know it's him, but they still haven't officially identified him. But man, his name was Ronnie Jerome Everett Jr. Shout out to I mean, rest in peace, and condolences to the family. He was a 17-year-old kid. Like I said, classmate of my son. So that shit just hits home to me because, like I said, it's down the street. Like I could throw a rock and hit it. Um,
Yeah, hit home, baby. Yes, hit home.
you know. So yeah, man, this shit is crazy. I mean, they shot the kid, someone, and it's always some worthless piece of shit that is the one that shoots these people, and they're always like really good people, and it just really pisses me off sometimes because it's like the people that shoot them are worthless. It's like that the rapper I was just talking about a little bit ago, Tentacion. The kids that shot him were just nobody, assholes. And this was a young, new, up and coming, extremely smart and creative, artistic, artist that never got to do nothing because some worthless piece of shit wanted to rob his, couple dollars that it's just pissed me off.
I know.
There it is. I think Your mic is on mute. Okay, yeah, we just lost Stu. Who knows? He'll be right back. Yeah, the violence in rap is appalling at times, and the rap culture today needs to address it. For sure, and especially like the trap music and drill music. Rather, I say drill music. The Chicago scene in New York. I mean, you could name all these scenes and point the finger, but every generation had a scene like that. I mean, we did, from Crips and Bloods and Vice Lords and folks and Latin Kings and all of that back in the day with the Chronic and Dr. Dre and Snoop albums and gangster rap and all of that shit we had in the early 90s was no different. But I don't know, man. I just feel like these kids are younger today, man. Like I feel like they're younger. I mean, these rappers are definitely younger, and these rappers are out here killing each other based on some rap shit. And it's just like they did. It's like they don't really grasp the fact that this was entertainment. You know what I mean? Like it was fictional entertainment. Yeah, it was pulled from the streets and all of that, but Dre was not out pulling drive-bys. You know what I'm saying? Snoop was not, kicking in doors with shotguns. So it's like taking it a little bit too literally, guys. Come on, man. You don't have to really kill each other and then rap about it. It's not too smart either. But we got to be careful out here in this wild, unpredictable world, man. Slade Wilson said it best.
That's true. That's so true. I mean, think
Mhm.
about it, man. You gotta think about it. We had in the last 3 years. It's been the worst anybody's ever seen alive today. Period. Point blank. Because you gotta think we had a pandemic. People died. Bang. They were just dying left and right. They ain't getting sick. Then you got senseless violence. Then you got the Trump regime. You got a man who wanted to be a leader of the free world and do nothing but just push it in disarray. And that's
Division.
exactly what he did, and division. And so now you got
Create
people that
division.
feed off of that, man. Like you got people
Yeah.
that feed off of anarchy and chaos. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
As human beings, we only I mean, as far as I know, this is the only livable planet in the solar system. I mean, damn, you would think we'd find a way to get along, prosper as humans, and
Right.
move forward. But you got some people who just don't want that. Some people don't. Some men just
Yeah,
want to see the world burn.
they're just angry. They're angry and they're bitter and they're mad at whatever and they don't care about anybody else. And it's what it is, but it's fucked up, you know. Um,
Mhm.
but on a lighter note, on a much lighter note, what's his name? What is his name? Uh, hold on, hold on. So the kid that played Data in the Goonies and played Short Round in
Mhm.
Indiana Jones. Um, his name is Ke Hui Kwan. Ke Hui Kwan. Ke Hui Kwan. I'm sure I'm butchering that, but he has returned to the set of the Goonies for the first time in 36 years, because he quit acting after 1997 because he didn't find many roles. It wasn't until 2018 with the premiere of Crazy Rich Asians that a comeback sort of crossed his mind. He said, "I called a friend who's an agent and I said, 'Hey, would you like to rep me?' And this is decades without an agent." He says yes. 2 weeks later, I got this call about the project that's written and directed by the Daniels and stars Michelle Yeoh. I was like, oh my God, I mean, Michelle is the reason why I'm even thinking about getting back into acting in the first place. End quote. The film was Everything, Anywhere, All at Once, directed by Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinhardt. And Kwan is currently in contention for the 2023 Oscars season in the supporting actor race for his role as Waymond Wang. But yeah, I thought that was cool, man, to see Data, man, back in the limelight. And Indiana Jones, obviously, Indiana Jones 5 and shit coming.
I heard
Harrison
he's supposed to be
Ford.
in it. Yeah, I heard he's supposed to be in it.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
true?
yeah. Yeah, well,
Okay.
he said he didn't even think that Harrison Ford remembered him. uh It's funny, but one of the moments that went viral at the D23 back in September was Everything Everywhere All at Once, when he reunited his Indiana Jones Temple of Doom co-star Harrison Ford, and they shared a moment on Instagram. It was really cool. And then he was announced as one of the latest additions to the Disney Plus series Loki season 2. So he will be in Loki season 2. Harrison Ford was promoting his final turn in the franchise until the fifth Indiana Jones installment. And Quan opened up about his experience seeing Ford after 38 years. He said, "We were at the D23 event, and I was told Harrison was going to be there. We were in this green room with so many actors, producers, and directors. And the person who was assigned to assist me said, Harrison Ford is right outside the green room. Would you want to go say hi?" And I'm thinking, of course, I haven't seen him in 38 years. So I walk out and I see him about 15 feet away talking to Phoebe Waller, and they're there to promote Indiana Jones 5. As I walk close, my heart is pounding, and I'm thinking, is he going to recognize me? The last time he saw me, I was a little kid. It turned out that Harrison Ford's memory is still sharp as ever. He said, as I got closer, he turns and he points his finger at me, and he had that classic, famous, grumpy Harrison Ford guy look. And I go, my gosh, he probably thinks I'm a fan, and he's going to tell me not to come near him. But he looks at me and he points and says, "Are you Short Round?" Immediately, I was transported back to 1984 when I was a little kid, and I said, "Yes, Indy." And he said, "Come here," and gave me a big hug. So that was cool. And in addition to Indy, both actors will have characters in other shared universe stuff in the MCU, with Harrison Ford obviously replacing William Hurt as General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross in the upcoming Captain America New World Order. And I guess Short Round Quan is going to be. Which one is he going to be doing? Loki. Loki.
Oh,
Loki 2, season 2. Yeah.
Loki. Yeah.
Yeah.
Short Round is
Shout
Short
out to
Round is
Data.
something else, man. I mean, I can see it. I know when they did Bad Boys, when Bad Boys 2, when Martin and Will
Mm,
Smith were scaring the
mm,
little boy at the at the front door. Martin said that, and Will said that after they did that scene, they never saw him again. Like they never saw him. Like they said he left,
yeah.
and they said
I'm
he
trying to think of.
like they never got to formally meet him. So when you see the scared look on his face, he was really scared because
Mm,
when they did it, um, they just pushed him to the door, and they came out and they did the scene. That was all. Will Smith said it was all kind of improv because they knew their lines and everything, but they said they were supposed to shoot it more than once. But they said they shot it, and the look on his face and the whole 9 yards was just he was
Short
so
Round?
terrified. Nah, and Bad Boys. That's why I said it could be the same because when they did the new Bad Boys,
Are
that's
you
when
talking
they
about
that was the
Short
first
Round being
time.
in Bad Boys?
No. I'm talking about him not seeing Harrison Ford after the movie and then meeting up with him again
Okay.
after all
Gotcha.
those years.
Right.
That the same thing happened with Bad Boys when they scared the little boy at the front door. Will
Mm,
Smith said we didn't see him after that until we did the new Bad Boys. They never contacted him, never talked to him.
yeah.
They did that
Yeah.
one scene and that was it.
Right.
And Will Smith was like, he was like, we scared the bejesus out of that little boy. It was like,
Yeah.
and they wanted to see him after, the scene, but he
Right.
said something got mixed up and they never got to see each other. But he
Ah,
said we didn't get to see him again until we did the new movie. So
right.
you could see, I could see how it could happen. But I'm just
Yeah.
glad that he remembered him, that Harrison Ford remembered him and who he
Yeah,
was.
that was pretty cool. That
Yeah.
must have been awesome. Yeah. Oh, so you remember that dude, Kea Morgan, who was he was like he was like Stan Lee's assistant, and he was charged with theft from stealing shit from Stan Lee. But a Los Angeles judge has declared a mistrial and dismissed grand theft charges just today against former business manager of Marvel Comics mastermind Stan Lee. Superior Court Judge George Lomelli dismissed the charges against Kea Morgan, who was accused of stealing from Lee when a jury was deadlocked 11-1 in favor of acquittal after 2 days of deliberations in a 2.5 week trial. Lamelli said the judge said that he was stepping in to clear Morgan of 3 felony counts of grand theft from an elder in the interests of justice, according to Variety magazine. The judge says, I'm sorry, the attorney said, my client and I have spent 4 years proving his innocence, and today we have prevailed. Morgan's attorney, Alex Kessel, said in the email to the Associated Press. Because prosecutors allege that Morgan, who was 41, stole more than $220,000 in proceeds from 3 memorabilia signings from Stan Lee about 6 months before Stan Lee died in 2018. Morgan was arrested the following year. Initial charges of elder abuse and false imprisonment against Morgan were dropped way before the trial started. The prosecution argued during the trial that Morgan had preyed on Stan Lee when Lee was in mental decline in the last months of his life, and acted without authority on his behalf. And Kessel argued that the missing money actually went to Lee's daughter and heir, J.C. Lee, who was a witness during the trial. The proceedings were largely overshadowed by the simultaneous trials of disgraced movie mogul Harvey Weinstein and actor Danny Masterson. That's why this really wasn't that, publicized, because they were both, they were going on simultaneously with Morgan on the same hallway down, of a downtown LA courthouse. And but after 3 hours, email sent to the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office seeking comment was not immediately returned. Lee, the creative dynamo who co-created characters including Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and Incredible Hulk from Marvel, and made beloved cameos in the movies, died in November of 2018 at 95 years old. So, yeah, I was I heard a little bit about this at the time, but it really just kind of slipped off the radar. But so that's interesting that he's been acquitted. I wonder what it was that he stole. I mean, they're saying it's
I'm curious.
$220,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I'm
proceeds
curious to
from
know.
well, okay. So what it was, they're saying that at Comic-Con, I figured it out. All right. So basically, Stan Lee was at a Comic-Con doing signing memorabilia or whatever. And if you've ever been to a Comic-Con and had something signed by someone, you pay a lot of money. Like you got to give them like $100 to walk up and have them sign the photo for you or whatever. So I guess $220,000 in people paying for Stan Lee to sign their stuff, all that money is what they're talking about. So that's a lot of damn money, but I can see how that could stack up. I can, because this right here, this shit cost me like $180. Took this
It don't
photo
come
with
cheap.
him. No,
Yeah, it don't come cheap.
he gave me like a photo, and he signed my my Marvel Legends Moff Gideon figure. But
But
yeah,
it gives
yeah.
you some authenticity. Like how
And
you go
some
to
do
Pawn
sign for sure.
Stars. Yeah,
Not big
how you
ones though.
see Pawn Stars. And they'll have like somebody will say, "Oh, this is from such and such," and he signed it,
Right,
and they want to prove that it's real. Well, if you were to pawn your figure, 15 years from now, and it was in high demand, you now have everything you need to prove,
right.
that it got signed by Moff
Authenticity.
Gideon,
Yeah,
right? And so, it's a small price to pay. It's a large price, a price to pay up front, but in the long run, it's worth it, man. You gotta do it.
yeah. Only 40 million, which seems kind of silly when you say only 40 million. But for Stan Lee, yeah, that dude should be sitting on a bill, straight up. Stan Lee should be sitting on a bill. Considering, that the last Marvel movie cost damn near a bill. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, the MCU, the video game. I mean, just come on, dude. The merch. I mean, Marvel Comics, these characters, Spider-Man. Come on, dude. That man should be sitting on a bill. If Kanye's sitting on a bill for some ugly ass shoes, Stan Lee should be sitting on a bill for a fucking Marvel. But yeah, yeah. Nobody ever gets what they're worth. Nobody ever gets what they're worth. They either get way too much or not enough. Um, yeah, but so that. Yeah, and Marvel did cast Yahya Abdul Mateen II to lead the Disney Plus series uh Wonder Man. And that is an interesting. I'm not surprised that they're doing Wonder Man because it's all the rage to do the most obscure whack characters they can think of. But oh man, I'm just not excited at all for a Wonder Man movie or show. Like
No,
doesn't no. I mean, did you ever read Wonder Man comics? Do you even know what goes on in a Wonder Man comic?
in detail, no.
No.
I've read a few here and there, but maybe because he had a guest appearance and somebody was in there to, but never like I didn't follow it. No,
Mm-mm.
I don't even know who does, to be honest with
That's what I'm saying.
you. But apparently
That's
there
what
is a
I'm
cult following
saying.
for Wonder Man out there.
Is there? Is there?
If they
Like I
making
don't
a
even
movie,
think.
it's got to be. If they
No,
making a
that's the
movie,
thing. No. They make they're making these movies out of people that don't have any cult followings that nobody cares about. No, there was no cult following for fucking Guardians of the Galaxy or Eternals. That's just something that they created. They
I
want to
think
create
you know
a
what.
following.
I think they did it because somebody asked the question a while ago. I read an article where they said that DC needs to move on, or they were asking, "Do you think DC needs to move on from Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman, and just
Yeah.
give us some other
Besides them,
heroes,
yeah.
right? Besides the big three, something to get excited about." Um, I agree. I think that they should do cameos, and we should move on. We should maybe get Green Lantern, Martian
Right.
Manhunter, and Flash. You know,
Right.
it was a fresh
Yeah.
take on some heroes.
Yeah.
You know,
But Marvel's got let me just for fucking perspective here. Let me get give me my camera, you bastard. So let me get over here where we can see. All right. So just for perspective, you telling me that there's not a character that's doper than Wonder Man that they can't find that's not Spider Man or the Avengers? Come on, B.
I mean, Daredevil. I mean, but I guess they look at it, Reno, like if you do a movie, like the first Daredevil movie, it really was it was about 50-50. Right? Some people liked it, some people didn't. It didn't do well. Blade did well. Spidey, they go with the bigger names and they do really well.
Right.
So I guess they figure if we go with something smaller,
Yeah.
somebody that's not well known, how good will it do? I
Well,
guess that's how they look at it.
I mean, they've had good success with that. They have. I mean, they've
They
had good
have.
success with Guardians, and I can't say they had good success with Eternals or anything, but
But that's
you
their
know,
own fault. That's their own
right.
fault. You took too many risks and you didn't do it the way it was supposed to be done. And you had disappointed fans because of it. I mean, you can't make something more than what you wanted to be. If they wanted to do something like let's say with the Eternals, they wanted to do that spin where they wanted to represent every genre of people on the planet, and you come out with
Mm,
something new, you bring it out, you link it to Marvel, and you see how it does. But when you tell people I'm doing the Eternals, and people go to pay their money, they're like, all right, I want to see the Eternals. I need to know what's up. Don't give me something else,
mhm. Right.
because it's just not going to
Yeah.
do. They're not going to be accepting of.
Right. Well,
Don't tell me you got a burger joint, and I get there and all you got is hot dogs.
don't
Man,
piss
where the
on my
burgers
head
at?
and tell me it's raining.
Yeah.
But Norrin Rads tells us that Wonder Man turns into pure energy and dies. Hank Pym uses his brain waves to create vision. Problem is Wonder Man is too much. They already have too much on their plate. This will just lead to oversaturated burnout for fans. Wonder Man is very strong superhero on the superhero scale. Yeah, he's like a powerful guy. He's like a, Hyperion type, I think maybe Superman-ish type of super powerful, strong guy. If though and see, this would have been great had they stuck to the continuity or stuck to the source material and actually had Hank Pym create Vision, or had, stuck to Wonder Man's energy creating Vision, and then now they could do the Wonder Man show, which would be the prequel and the origin of how Vision came to be. Would be great. But they don't. They change shit, and then they by doing all these stupid changes, they put themselves into a hole. And you know what I mean? They write themselves rather into a hole, and they can't write themselves out because they're not that talented, because if they were, they wouldn't have, written themselves into a hole. But even George R. R. Martin and Neil Gaiman claim that they hate Hollywood's tendency to alter source material. Despite the numerous excuse me, numerous such changes, that we see in recent live action adaptation of their works like Game of Thrones or Sandman, right? George R. R. Martin and Neil Gaiman have written these amazing epics that were so popular, and so well done, that Hollywood wanted to option them and make films and shows out of them. But just like with comics, first thing they do is change all the shit that made it great, that
Mhm.
made it popular, that made people love it, and then they
Yep.
wonder why people go, "Oh, that sucked," or, "The adaptation was crap," or "The book was better." Of course it was, because you changed it all. And,
Right.
these 2 authors, gave their thoughts about that recently. It's ironic that, they just said on Hollywood's obligation to be faithful to the written material, when they, came to a speaking engagement at the Symphony Space in New York City, and, as part of the promotional tour for his upcoming Rise of the Dragon, an illustrated history of the Targaryen dynasty, volume 1 reference book, which keep an eye out for, and don't put a blue sapphire in it. Speaking to the number of topics related to his career, including how he handled his success, and even, his desire to hear feedback from fans. He says, maybe you're going to throw rotten fruit at me. Maybe you're going to applaud, but I want to know what you thought of the story and the characters. Martin eventually turned to discuss Hollywood's propensity for overwriting an author's original intent. And nothing that this concept of being faithful to the source materials was controversial among the industry, he said, but how faithful do you have to be, right? Some people don't feel that they have to be faithful at all to the material. He said there's this phase that goes around, I'm going to make it my own. And I hate that phrase. And I think Neil Gaiman probably hates that phrase too. He said, and Neil Gaiman says, I do. He said, I spent 30 years watching people make Sandman their own. That's why the Sandman show never happened, because he because so many different, producers and stuff just wanted to make it their own and change it so much that he didn't even, recognize it. And that's why he never wanted to do it. Let me call you back. So he just never made Sandman for that reason. And thank God, and kudos to Neil Gaiman for sticking to his guns. I think if more authors did this, we wouldn't have this problem. Like comic book writers and authors and Marvel and stuff, you know, Kevin Feige doesn't own you. All right. And just because the MCU wants to do it this way, there's got to be somebody that can say, no, that's my material. And no, I don't want you to do that, but no one has the balls. Nobody wants to do that because nobody wants to
Right.
ruffle feathers and fuck up, deal. And I understand all that, but shout out to Neil Gaiman for having the balls to do it and just waiting until he found someone that actually stuck to the script in a way that was meaningful. Because to be fair, some things have to change when they adapt it. And that's why I try to tell people, don't ever expect to see an exact adaptation of a book or a comic in film because
Yeah,
some
yeah,
things they have to change.
the change. Yeah,
Some stuff
yeah.
doesn't translate, but recognizing that certain
Or
changes
they,
are sometimes necessary to help.
or they're going for a certain rating, and they want to,
Mhm.
like in uh Lock and Key. There's
Yeah,
a lot they changed. They changed a
yeah.
lot, but
Mhm.
just just to see how I don't know. Some people just can't take it, and some people watch it and be
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, that's so appalling." But
Because they don't
you
have
know,
the ability to, like, recognize because, like, recognizing that certain changes are sometimes necessary to help translate the story, to a
right?
completely different medium. You know what I'm saying? And then George R. R. Martin, said to clarify his opinion, asserting that he said that there are changes that you have to make or, that you're called upon to make that I think are legitimate, and there are other ones that are not legitimate. To illustrate his point, he harkened back to his work adapting the sci-fi author Roger Zelazny's story, The Last Defender of Camelot, for an episode of the late 1980s Twilight Zone, revival. And according to him, due to budgetary restrictions put in place by CBS, the network forced him to choose between accentuating a battle scene with either a full unit of horses or a detailed backdrop. And eventually, after consulting with Zelazny himself, he chose to cut the warrior's steeds, a decision with which he argued was, to my mind, the kind of stuff you are called upon to do in Hollywood that is legitimate. Uh, conversely, the author offered up the studio's demand that the episode add an ordinary person, the bandit Tom, as portrayed by John Mitchell, to serve as an audience surrogate and elevate the story to their vision of high concept as an example of illegitimate change. He said, "I was new to Hollywood. I didn't say you're fucking morons, but that's probably what he was thinking." But this sort of way of thinking, it's not just us as the fans, that look and say like, oh, why did they change this story I love? The authors of that stuff actually don't like that shit either. And so, but and some authors have the wherewithal or the ability or are in the luxurious position of being able to turn down deals that they feel alter it too much. Like Neil Gaiman turned down so many options to adapt Sandman over the last, however 30 years or whatever it is, that because he could, and some authors, for instance, me, I ain't rich, you know what I'm saying? I work, I struggle, I'm check. So if I ever finished my novel and it became popular and some, Hollywood wanted to option it, I'm not in a position to be like, "Nah, I'm gonna wait for a better deal." You know what I'm saying? They offer me a few million. It's like, where do I sign? So I get it. Some people can't, they're not in the ability they don't have the ability to
Say no.
stick to their guns, right, to
Yeah,
say no. So,
yeah.
but yeah, yeah. Because I think Neil Gaiman, he said, it was incredibly liberating to be able to look at everything in Sandman from a perspective of now and getting to ask, well, if I was bringing writing to the story now, would I still do that? Because when Sandman was originally written, it's a different time. Like now, like a lot of the white men characters are now black women. You know what I mean? Like so stuff like that that is societal changes, you know what I'm saying? Like, so some works of fiction, some writing, some books don't really jive with today's political atmosphere. And so or PC or social justice and all of that. So
Right.
that is changing a lot of source material. And that's what's, people are really starting to get, annoyed with, but I think all of this social justice warrior stuff is gonna die down and people are gonna get back to reality and come down to earth. And then we'll get new versions of all this stuff that actually looks like source material.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Which is what we want.
this is what we want. But aside from Game of Thrones' absolute butchering which George R. R. Martin has admitted was the regrettable result of him allowing himself to be pushed out of the series' creative process. And the characters and events of its sequel and prequel series, House of the Dragon, have also seen their fair share of changes in the transition to television. You had House Valerion being race swapped to being all black, Lenor surviving his duel with Sir Carl Corey, and perhaps most notably, Allison and Rhaenyra developing those close childhood friendship upon which much of the adaptation's narrative is built. And suffice to say, reality contrasts starkly with Neil Gaiman and George R. R. Martin's professed sentiments. House of the Dragon, you know what I'm saying, is the same. George R. R. Martin regrets them even just doing the part of Fire and Blood that they're doing for House of the Dragon. I mean, the Fire and Blood novel, they House of the Dragon starts in the middle of the novel. There's a whole beginning half of the novel that they completely skipped, which I was so disappointed, man. Because when I heard they were doing Fire and Blood, adapting the book Fire and Blood, I'm expecting to see Aegon the Conqueror come and conquest, Westeros, because that's how the
Right.
book starts. And that's the beginning of the Targaryen dynasty, is when Aegon Targaryen comes to Westeros to conquer it with his dragons. But House of the Dragon starts generations after that. It's like, whoa. So, but fortunately, House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones and all that they're getting more spin-offs. There's a bunch of other spin-offs coming. There's the Jon Snow spin-off, which will be a sequel of Game of Thrones, which will hopefully fix all the crap, with the way they ended it. And there's another prequel, and apparently they are going to do some of the earlier parts of Fire and Blood. So we will get to hopefully see that.
Hopefully.
What's
Hopefully.
going on with Blade is doing that, it seems. Mahershala ain't liking it, right? I'd rather wait longer and get a cheap, lazy version.
That's true.
Stephen King hates the Shining movie. Yeah. Oh, yeah,
He
dude.
does.
King.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Yeah, Stephen
Yeah.
King is against that shit too. And speaking of Stephen King, he slammed Elon Musk for planning to charge for Twitter verification. The little blue check mark next to the name of verified accounts, like celebrity accounts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk is polling to see he wants to charge $20 a month for that blue check mark. And Stephen King's like, fuck you. Apparently, they have over 800,000 responses and counting. 4 out of 5 accounts surveyed say they are unwilling to pay even $5 a month. But I guess you guys got plenty of time to cast your vote. But the poll closes in less than a week. But yeah, uh, yeah. Stephen King was like, "Fuck you." He said, "The idea of forcing people to pay for blue checks gets Twitter value proposition totally backward. For Twitter to have value, it needs to provide valid information from legitimate sources. If anyone can pay for the appearance of validity, the site loses all value." Um, yeah. The CEO of Complex Media, Hank Green, said the proposition is 100% cringe. Uh,
Mm.
yeah, but yeah, a very small number, under 6%, voted that they were even prepared to shell out just $15 to tweet from a blue check account. But I don't think that you just, oh, I pay $20, I get a blue check. That's not what he's saying, because that would be ridiculous if you could just pay for the check. What he's saying is if you earn a check, if you've been verified and they know you are who you say you are, and then you got to pay. But I still think it's fucking, well, Stephen King does anyway. He thinks it sucks.
It does.
Yeah.
Because Twitter's been free all these years, bro.
Yeah, it
It's a
should
good
be.
platform to advertise and sell things and do other things. But now he wants to charge. I mean, I get it. But at the
We
same
got a new
time,
Falcon.
yeah. And you're telling people this is free and then it's not. That's not fair.
Yeah, no, it's not. He's not saying Twitter's going to cost money. He's just saying for that blue check.
Yeah. Just for that blue check.
But yeah, just for the blue check. But Captain America: New World Order is coming out, and apparently they are recasting the Falcon too. I didn't know they were gonna do that. I thought that the Falcon is just becoming Captain America, but they're replacing him with well, the character is Joaquin Torres, and that character was from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, played by Danny Ramirez. He's a Mexican American soldier fighting for the United States, and will eventually become the superhero known as Falcon. And there's a big difference between this Joaquin Torres and the one from the comics, of course. But it may still come to pass that uh, he would take up the mantle as the Falcon for Sam Wilson, the same way Wilson did for Steve Rogers. And he already proved himself to be a loyal ally and a real friend. Um, I think during Captain America: New World Order, we will see Torres become who he was in the comics. But there's a lot of differences between the two, because Torres played a very significant role in Sam Wilson's time as Captain America in the books,
Mm.
and he joined the Underground while Hydra took over the United States and supported Sam Wilson in a lot of other adventures and stuff. And the MCU version of Joaquin Torres could still be altered to fit the comic book version if they, but Hollywood ain't that smart. But there are other things that might happen to the character that would turn him into a hero for the MCU. He might become a West Coast Avenger if they do the West Coast Avengers, because they clearly are setting all those characters up. And we'll likely see him again in Captain America: The New World Order. So pay attention to Joaquin Torres, because he is the future of Falcon. But Falcon in the comics, Joaquin Torres was nothing but a kid from Arizona. And when he got caught up in some dangerous superhero business, as a Mexican immigrant, he left food, water, and medical supplies for those trying to make the difficult trek across the border. One day, while attempting to do his charitable duty, he was kidnapped by the Sons of the Serpent, which is a group of underground criminals, and was sold to Dr. Carl Malice. And Malice was an evil scientist who sought to study super powers through illegal human experimentation. And uh, Mexican immigrants, Anonymous, was like his a great source for these humans, and criminal organizations would regularly send him people that they wanted to get rid of in exchange for weaponized chemical agents, or in hopes of getting superpowers themselves. Or but after Torres was kidnapped by them, his grandmother informed Sam Wilson, Captain America, who immediately jumped on the case. And it's worth noting that in the MCU, Sam Wilson uses a drone called Red Wing, which was like,
Yeah.
and the comics, Red Wing is an actual Falcon, a live Falcon, with which Wilson has a psychic connection. Because in the comics, remember, he's not wearing a big mechanical metal jetpack with wings,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, he's got like real feather type wing type shits, and his drone isn't a drone, it's a regular Falcon, it's a real Falcon. Before but while Torres is being held in Dr. Malice's lab, he experiments on him using DNA from the Hawk, the real Hawk, Red Wing. And that because he's captured Red Wing as well. And so before Captain America, Sam Wilson, could free them both, Torres was already transformed by the evil doctor. And so it was the DNA of that Falcon, Red Wing, mixed, and the results of the experiment gave Torres the actual wings of a falcon, turning him into a strange human bird hybrid creature, which is more than Falcon was. Falcon was just a guy in a suit. This guy's actually biologically a human Falcon, but he would never be the same. He would never be human again, and so he ended up joining Sam Wilson, as his sidekick, taking up the title that Sam Wilson used to have, Falcon. And due to the experimentation, Torres also had a psychic link to Red Wing, because Red Wing, I guess, still still was a thing. He didn't die. And so, Wilson still relied on him for support. So both Captain America and Joaquin Torres now had a shared mental link through the bird who would act as sort of a messenger when they needed him to basically he was like their text message. But Torres was now, a man with actual wings, who would serve Captain America in his fight against the Serpent Society that kidnapped him, and as well as join the underground after Hydra took over the country. In the
Mm.
comics, Joaquin Torres was played by Danny Ramirez, who was also in Top Gun Maverick, who's already confirmed for Captain America: New World Order to play Falcon. So that means sometime between now and then, we'll see a big change in his character. At the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier, Torres is still just a regular human soldier in the Air Force, working on his computer. So he'll have to go through some shit, which will be dope. And with Tim Blake Nelson confirmed to return to the MCU as the leader, it could be possible that Torres gets kidnapped and mutated by the leader, and in place of the other evil
Mm.
scientists, so it would be the leader that might make him into Falcon. But what's more likely to happen is Torres getting some old equipment from Sam Wilson, some old jetpacks. Maybe
It's rocket
maybe
boots.
Sam Wilson will give him the wings, and or the shield or whatever. So yeah, like Sam will have the shield, so you can wear my wing jetpack. That'll be his origin story. That's what I'm talking about. That's the thing that the MCU does to the comics. They take away the mystical stuff and just make it technology.
Yeah, we
And
do.
there's no reason. I could see if they were trying to make everything realistic, but you've got Doctor Strange, you've got magic, you've got powers, so there's no reason to do it anymore. They forget. They forgot that the reason they were doing that is because they were trying to make shit realistic. But once they got into, once they crossed those lines, there's no reason to keep doing that. But they
That's true.
forgot. But whether it will be Hydra or some other evil force that takes over the United States in the movie in New World Order, one thing definitely, there will be a group of heroes resisting the evil plot using the name the Underground. That's the name of the team. The superhero team is called the Underground. So Torres will no doubt be part of this team, and Captain America will likely draw his friends close in order to establish a strong front against his new enemy. But since Red Wing is now just a broken drone in the MCU, Torres probably won't be experimented or mutated in any way, because the MCU just doesn't. It's just not that cool. It's more likely that we'll just receive Sam Wilson's old wingsuit, and become the Falcon that way. But whatever happens, it's assured that we will definitely see more of Torres in the future.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, they recasted Terrence Howard. They swapped him out for
Mm-hmm. For yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Don
So
Cheadle.
and nobody could understand it. Like nobody could understand why they
Yeah.
were swapping out. But Don Cheadle did a good job.
He did.
You know?
He did. I thought,
Mm.
I mean, you couldn't have got two guys that looked so differently
So different, right?
from
One's
each other,
tall,
but
one's short. Yeah,
yeah.
so it's just getting them to. Nobody can understand why he did it. Everybody was just like, "Why,
Yeah.
Don Cheadle?"
But yeah, no, I mean, Don Cheadle is now he's officially a Marvel mainstay. He's about to return to the MCU as a significant player. Too. With
Isn't he
he's
getting his own
teasing.
series?
Yeah, he's teasing a rebirth for his hero. Cheadle's War Machine has been around since Iron Man 2, but remains an integral part of the on-screen canon. So, this staying power has become a force that Cheadle, his armored, is going to lead his own film in Armor Wars. And Cheadle's been around longer than I think anyone else in the franchise as an actor, besides like Robert Downey. But noting that he will be, continue working with Marvel as long as the projects remain interesting and fun, he said. Because he's finished his MCU contract, but as a choice, he's chosen to reprise his role in stuff like Secret Invasion and Armor Wars that he didn't have to do. It would seem that these titles just hit that fun criteria that he was looking for, and so uh, and part of that could be due to an incoming change to the character. The actor recently teased us with. Um, he said, ba, 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 "Who is Rhodey? Where did he come from? What are the relationships? Who's important to him? Who is he important to? What does he want to do? What are his goals? What are his desires outside of the relationship with these people that we've seen? Who is he when he's by himself? A lot of these things we haven't seen before. So there's like I said, a good opportunity to explore all that stuff and hopefully create a full character that now, when we see the suit, we see everything else. We know what's behind that. It's a rebirth in a way, it's coming back to this character, but we've never gone to the places that we're about to go in the show. So I feel like we're in some way just getting to know him after all this time. End quote. And he what else did he say? He said this would be a chance for Rhodey to be more, three-dimensional. Saying that his, character was always sort of he said he said he said that's the hope, is that he gets to be more three-dimensional, and things like that we don't like, his desires, his fears, all the things that I think we only uh cursorily looked at as Rhodey. And he's always sort of existed in the context of, Tony and the MCU and his job as an Avenger, but really like sort of peel back all that and really get to know what it is. So in that same interview with EW, Cheadle also described what it was like getting that first call from Marvel Studios before Iron Man 2. You know what I'm saying? He said, I think it was a 6-picture deal at the time, and I was trying to figure out how long that was. I said, what are these? What are these movies? What are they going to be like? How's the character going to develop? And they were like, we're not sure about any of those answers, but we need an answer in an hour. And I said, I'm at my daughter's birthday party laser tag game. And they said, okay, take 2 hours. So, you have to take 2 hours to decide this is something you're going to do for however many years that is going to turn out to be. And I talked to my wife about it, and we just kind of said, yeah, let's roll the dice and see. Which, smartest choice he ever made. I mean, can you imagine kicking yourself that you didn't choose to be in the MCU? I
We know
mean,
one actor. We know one actor that did.
oh yeah, it's actually a couple.
Yeah, Eric Bana. He was one that said he wished
Yeah,
he would have just not listened to his manager, took the role as the Hulk again,
yep, yep,
and he said it would have been a better career for
yep. I really think Ed Norton should have done it too, because where the fuck has Ed Norton been since the Hulk?
him. I
And
don't
that's
know,
crazy
man.
because Ed Norton was one of my favorite actors, dude.
Oh, everybody loves Ed Norton.
Fucking love Ed Norton, dude. I don't
Yeah,
know what
everybody
happened
loves
to him.
him. I don't either, man.
Yeah, but with
Yeah, he just fell off.
yeah. No, I don't
It's
I don't
Brian
think he
Fisher.
fell off. I think he
Oh, not in a bad way. I mean, he just maybe just
doing other
maybe he just
shit.
thought it was
Yeah.
time to bow out. Yeah, he just thought it was time to
Yeah.
bow out gracefully. A lot of actors do that.
Yeah.
They move on to other things. They say, you know what, I'm done with acting. Let's go to something else.
Yeah. It says he despite critical plaudits, Norton has gained notoriety for being difficult to work with, including incidents such as editing the final cuts and rewriting screenplays against the will of the other producers. He is discreet about his personal life and has expressed no interest in being a celebrity. Besides acting and filmmaking, he's an environmental activist and social entrepreneur. He is a trustee of Enterprise Community Partners, a nonprofit organization works for advocates for affordable housing, and serves as the president of the American branch of the Maasai Wilderness Conservation Trust. He's also the UN Goodwill Ambassador for Biodiversity. He is married to Canadian film producer Shauna Robertson, with whom he has one child. In March 2022, on the day of another sentencing of Russian opposition leader and political prisoner Alexei Navalny, Norton became the first celebrity sponsor of the International Anti-Corruption Foundation. That's where he's at now.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he's been making films and really killing it since like 90, like 91. So he's done his thing. Um, I think the last thing he did was Birdman. Well, no, he did Sausage Party, um, Collateral Beauty. What else did he do? He did Knives Out.
Okay.
Wait, did he do Knives Out? I think he didn't do Knives Out. I don't know. I thought he did. I don't know. But yeah, it's been a while. I don't know. It's not like he's hurting for money or anything. I mean, he doesn't have to do anything if he doesn't want to. But yeah,
That's
he
true.
was
That's true.
yeah. But Don
That's
Cheadle,
true.
Armor Wars. It seems to be. I don't. I think it's going to be pretty dope. The multiverse saga was about introducing new heroes into the MCU, and thus far it has also been about doing deeper dives into characters who may have been sidelined, to the likes of Tony Starks or Steve Rogers in the past. And it seems that to be the case with Don Cheadle's War Machine, because in the streaming series turned big scree blockbuster, Armor Wars, not to say the hero has never been a part of nuanced character moments in the past, but now it's time to more fully explore, Cheadle's Armored Avenger and learn what makes him tick. Something that Cheadle is definitely excited about doing, and he calls it a rebirth of sorts. Not to say he'll be transforming into a completely new person, but more so, it's likely to reference the fact that audiences are about to explore parts of Rhodey that we never knew existed, and this will likely come to fruition in some similar fashion to how Sam Wilson's post Endgame rebirth came. Um, no, War Machine will not become the next Iron Man the way Falcon became the next Captain America, but exploring stories in the wake of losing Tony or Cap will allow Marvel to go deeper on these heroes, character wise, personality wise.
I think
So,
Reno they should. I think Reno they should give us a Punisher in the War Machine armor, a special. I mean, we already
yeah,
got Werewolf by Night, and that would be a good
yeah.
way to introduce Punisher into the
Punisher
MCU.
in the War Machine armor would be epic. That's just
Mm,
a dream, a
no, I
dream.
know, I
But
know.
I think this is something could
But
happen because we do
I know.
we do have what's
We
his
got War
name?
Machine. We got War
We got War
Machine.
Machine and
We
we
got
do have
Punisher.
Punisher. He's coming
All right.
back to play Punisher again in some project. So
Well,
either he'll be back for Daredevil or
the She-Hulk series with Daredevil in it. Once Daredevil is in there, that automatically brings in Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Punisher because now the existence of those heroes, wherever they may
canon
be,
wise.
is
Right,
canon
yeah.
wise. It's canon, and they can use whatever they want and whatever they don't want. So whatever they don't want to use, they don't have to use. But whatever they do want to use, they can use it. But we do
Yeah.
know one thing: they can actually bring them in. Disney did say that once they had Disney Plus up and running, that they were going to give them back their respective shows or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so let's do it. You know,
Let's do we. Let's see Punisher meet War Machine and do the thing, man. I don't I Oh, wow. I forget how that all came about. I've got that comic somewhere.
yeah. Nick Fury. I forget what they called him. They didn't call him. What did they call it? It was something they called him. Was it Iron Patriot or something like that? They or something. No, it wasn't Iron Patriot. It was
No.
I know when Nick Fury was the one that set the whole thing up and gave him the armor, and uh Punisher kept it. He kept the joint
Yeah.
and kept using it, and then Tony Stark had to come stop him from from what you call it, from going crazy because Punisher was pretty much he was a straight force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, he was
You
always
know
a
what I mean?
one man army. Frank Castle
Yeah,
was always a one man army as the Punisher, and he acted as a vigilante for years and waged war against all manner of criminals. Started with the mob, but ended up doing supervillains just the same. But compared to other superheroes, Frank Castle definitely always stood apart to me because you know,
he's like Batman. He
he
doesn't
had
have
no
any
powers.
superpowers.
Yeah,
Yeah, he has no superpowers. He has
but
nothing, man. He's just
what made
a
him
regular guy.
unique, what made him unique with all from all other superheroes, even Batman, was that he kills the bad guys.
Yes,
And
he
he's got
does.
his code, and he has no
Yes, he
regrets, and
does.
nobody agrees with
Yes,
his
he
code.
does.
The heroes, they don't like it, but he doesn't have any superheroes or superpowers or gadgets. But he's armed to the teeth with all the guns, bombs, knives, whatever else he has in his endless, infinite arsenal. And with all that, he's been more than efficient, on at fighting superhero or supervillains or whatever. But he really took things to the next level when he started wearing Rhodey's War Machine armor. Um, He painted his signature skull logo on the Iron Man suit and became
Face.
a
Yeah.
literal war machine. And
Yes, he did. But he
but
did
but
keep his
how?
promise to Nick Fury. He did the mission for Nick like he was supposed to, and he was supposed to return the armor. Nick gave him access to it, and I always thought that Nick Fury bit back, but just took the chance anyway because he really needed that mission done.
Yeah, yeah. It
But
all
it was a
began
good
when
comic, man. It was a good comic.
Nick Fury. It was a good one. It all begins when Nick Fury Jr. Approached Castle to recruit him for the special mission, because as it turns out, some ex-Shield soldiers were responsible for facilitating turmoil in the European country of Chernaya, where a brutal warlord sort of now rules over the people. And to clean up his mess, Nick Fury dispatched Frank Castle, but he wouldn't send him in there, empty handed. Fury gives Castle the location of the War Machine armor, which was locked down in a government facility. And of course, Castle was able to steal it, which I don't know why Fury just didn't give it to him, but tells him where it is. Castle steals it and
Well,
takes off
well,
into
whoa,
the sky.
whoa. Well, Reno, plausible deniability.
Right.
That's all I gotta say.
Well, that's
That's
how
why he
they.
didn't just give it to him. That's
No,
why he
that's
didn't
how
just
they
give it to
explain it.
him.
Yeah, that's how they
Yeah.
break it down. And there was initially a bit of learning curve for Frank Castle, so it was kind of funny to see him uh, trying to figure it out on his own. But he jumps in the War Machine armor pretty well. But he didn't hold back. He took out many enemy soldiers in very brutal and very creative ways that would never probably have occurred to Rhodey or Iron Man. Um, whether by punching their heads cleanly off their bodies or flying them up into the sky to drop them down to their deaths. But Frank was pretty much unstoppable with that armor. He took down tanks, entire platoons, and even faced a squadron of ex-Shield agents who were armed with their own Iron Man type suits. So it wasn't just the suit; it was actually him. And once the situation in Chinera was finally taken care of, Castle had promised that he would return the armor, but of course, he never had any intention of doing that. Um, he took the armor back to New York, where he used it to basically clean up the streets like he never was able to before. And in a bid to atone for his actions in the Secret of Empire event, Castle went after every Hydra agent that he could get his hands on. And soon the bodies of dozens of criminals started filling the streets, and the Avengers had no choice but to step up to stop Castle before he could do any more damage. He's only doing damage to the bad guys, but it's the Avengers, so he was able to evade them. And Iron Man finally joined the battle to help them out. to put a stop to him. But it was another superhero who would actually convince Castle to step out of the armor and surrender. When Castle first took the armor, Rhodey was dead following the events of Civil War II, and he would later be resurrected by Tony Stark. Addressing Castle as a fellow soldier, Rhodey was eventually able to get through to him in Rosenberg and Guy Villanova's The Punisher number 228. Now out of the armor, Castle would get arrested again, but his incarceration doesn't last long. Black Widow and Winter Soldier break him out, and he sort of just resumes war on criminals like he did before, but without the War Machine armor. But they could still do this story. Secret Empire is a storyline they can always do after Secret War. And, they could kill Rhodey, let Rhodey die, and then let the new Frank Castle take the War Machine armor. If they don't,
Or
this is just a ridiculously
what
missed
they could do,
opportunity.
remember when Rhodey got hurt? It was a
Mhm.
little time before he got his legs back.
Yeah.
That could have been when, yeah, they could have did it then.
Because he
You know,
died
instead
in the
of,
comics when that happened. He died.
yeah, when it happened. Yeah, I remember that. That was Secret War. I mean, not Secret War. It was what's the name of that story plot? Well, it come to me. But I do remember that. I
Yeah.
mean, Punisher has been handed cinematically the worst hand that any superhero could be dealt with. I mean, you can do John
Maybe the
Wick,
Hulk.
as violent as it is,
Yeah.
but then when it comes to the Punisher, you got to tone down the violence. Come on, man. Makes no sense.
Yeah,
Makes no sense at
just
all.
because it's Marvel, just because it's Disney, I mean, you guys have the character, do him right. Like, there's a reason that he's got fans. He doesn't have fans because he doesn't kill bad guys or because, Punisher's a character. It's like Sada was saying yesterday, when you race swap a character or you gender swap a character, it's fine if the gender or race wasn't integral to who that character was. And so it's like the same thing with the Punisher. If you take away his guns, you take away his violence, what is he now? He's just a new character now because that's what his character was all about. So, you can't alter every character, just to fit, the sensibilities of the super sensitive audiences or whatever. You just can't. I mean, not when it's going to completely change who the character is. I mean, because at that point, don't do the story then. Don't do the character then because I'd rather you just didn't do it. Um, but there's nothing
Yeah,
doper than Frank Castle in the War Machine armor. I mean, I feel like that War Machine
definitely.
armor is meant to have that Punisher skull on the front. I mean, it's just too obvious. It's too good,
That
man.
was too easy. Like
Word.
that was probably one of the greatest stories that was ever written in the Marvel universe.
But yeah, and that's the thing. I don't want Disney to do it. I didn't want, I didn't want Disney to buy Star Wars or Marvel. I was pissed when I heard that shit was happening because I had no faith that they would do anything but what they've done. I mean, I knew it's Disney. They were like, no, no, they're gonna do that. No, it's not. It's Disney. They're not going to, and I'll tell you why. Even if they wanted to, there's always going to be some guy at the top of the CEO or whatever that's going to be like, that's going to hurt our bottom line. You can't fuck with the brand, and that's we're still Disney. So I knew it was going to
Yeah,
be a problem.
that's the sad part because we're always gonna get that. But I don't know.
It
Disney
should be
is
rated R. Punisher needs to be rated R, no question.
yeah. If you can, like I said, if you can do John Wick, I don't understand why you can't do Punisher. I
I
really
mean,
just don't.
Deadpool. If you can do Deadpool, why can't you do Punisher? You do Deadpool, and that's rated R.
I know.
So there's really no excuse except for that they just don't want to, offend any, you know, what do you call it? I don't know, sensitive people.
Man, if it was me, I'd make it rated R and wouldn't turn my head. Like, I guarantee you to be the highest grossing movie of the year.
I believe it.
There'd be people
Mhm.
bootlegging it. The bootleggers will come out of the works and be selling
Yep.
VCR tapes with bootleg copies of Punisher War Machine Volume 1.
Well, guys, I
Nobody would do that.
yeah, I would love to see it, but it's not gonna happen. Never happen. But we did tell you guys we're gonna talk about Tales of the Jedi, baby. Uh, this new Inquisitor, you got Dooku, you got Ahsoka, you got Darth Tyrannus. This was the best shit that I've seen in Star Wars for a long time. And y'all know I'm a big Star Wars head, so that's saying a lot. Dave Filoni does it again with Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, guys. This is the dopest shit. I'm telling you, go see this, go watch it. If you don't have Disney Plus, there's other sites you can watch it on. You can go to fmovies.to. There's a lot of different sites where you can go on for free and stream any movie or show that's out there, whether it's still in the movie theater or what. And so, but Tales of the Jedi, it's an anthology series of animated shorts on Disney Plus. It's 6 episodes, and we see how Ahsoka became a Jedi from her birth to going into exile as the Empire sort of begins its reign over the galaxy. And we see how Count Dooku became Darth Tyrannus after realizing that the political system of the galaxy was hurting more people than it was helping. And overall, it delivers on the promise of giving us a meaningful Star Wars project with meaningful stories in short format. And they did it, and they delivered it. We see the return of two fan favorite characters, Ahsoka and Dooku. Also, return of Filoni himself to the medium that he dedicated the better part of his life to, and the series composer Kevin Kiner, who gives us the best work he's ever done for Star Wars animation. Um, all the composers that worked on the live action Disney Plus series so far have been dope. And I can see Kinner getting to do one eventually as well. The Acolyte, maybe. Okay, so there's a ton going on in Tales of the Jedi, no doubt. As usual, Dave Filoni gives us lessons about the Force and Star Wars lore in general. There's basically two arcs. There's the Ahsoka arc and the Dooku arc. Out of the two, Dooku's stories pack the most emotion behind them, surprisingly, but Ahsoka's episodes offer us a look into not only her origins, but also another glimpse into her close relationship with Anakin. Um, but I'll start with Ahsoka's because that's how
Like,
the show does it.
well, those are the pivotal moments for her. I mean, she did have a close relationship with Anakin, but it was never explored in the
Yeah.
Clone Wars. Yeah, so
Hmm.
we knew how close because she was heartbroken when she found out he crossed over to the dark side.
Yeah.
And that kind of affected her time as a Jedi and her future as a Jedi.
Right.
So her lightsabers are white. She fell off the map for a little while. She escaped Order 66. And Dooku
Hmm.
was the same thing. There was something that turned him, which we don't know, which made him into Darth Tyrannus, and then
Well, we know
you know,
now.
yes, we do.
We know now. So the two arcs, they start with Ahsoka's arc, and you get the story's life and death, practice makes perfect, and resolve. Those are the names of her episodes, and they illustrate her life from before the Jedi, during her time with Anakin, and after the fall. And it's exciting to see Ahsoka's parents, Pavti and Nakil, and the village where she would have grown up. And with this Ahsoka series currently in production, I've got to wonder if this will hint at us potentially returning to Ahsoka's roots, since she's no longer a Jedi. Ahsoka is not a Jedi. The two white lightsabers and all of that, she's not a Jedi. That's why, because she left the Order. She still wields sabers and the Force, but like we saw her in Mandalorian, she's not a Jedi anymore, and says so. But although the story Life and Death is a sweet story about Ahsoka's bond with the Force, even as a youngling, it's practice makes perfect and resolve that really show her strength as a Force user. The trailers seem to emphasize a certain hardness or sinister nature to Anakin's training Ahsoka, but we see that he's just doing everything he knows how to make sure that if shit goes down, she will come out alive. And this training will be vital to her in surviving Order 66, and it proves that Anakin Skywalker was not only a good person but a thoughtful Jedi Knight. But when she goes at it with the new Inquisitor, as a now seasoned Force user, she does not hesitate to show off how powerful she's become. In the first episode, we see Ahsoka tame a giant beast as a baby, very shortly after she's born. And like Dave Filoni said at the Star Wars celebration, this scene is asking the question: is she using the Force, or was she just not afraid? And this was a cutesy episode for the kids and the women folk, which is smart, a smart introduction to the overall concept of the series. And these will be beautifully animated shorts that will deliver a message or pose a question to the audience about a specific adventure that either Ahsoka or Dooku went on. I've got to mute this thing. Sorry, guys. Jesus. So we see Ahsoka again in the 5th episode, where she's now training with Anakin. She has no problem fighting against training droids under the most complex conditions, but Anakin ain't with it. We initially think that he might be a little jelly, but that's not the case. He's being overly cautious, trying to protect her from the dangers ahead by teaching her how to be better and relentlessly. But the best part of the episode is after Ahsoka is defeated over and over again, Anakin gives his inspirational speech. We cut away to another training in the future, and she's now been like 5 minutes undefeated, but she still hasn't fully mastered her abilities. Even as we cut to the Siege of Mandalore arc at the end, Rex and Ahsoka aren't sure that she'll be able to fight her way through it because nobody ever stops learning. So all we can do is prepare ourselves the best as possible. It's a great message to parents and sons and daughters out there, and the overall theme of Star Wars in disguise. It's all right to be afraid of what the future might bring because nobody's ever truly ready. A simple but beautiful episode that is my second favorite of the 3 Ahsoka episodes. Last but not least, on the Ahsoka arc, my fave of the 3, we have her battling a dope ass new Inquisitor character. And let me see. This is him. So this guy right here with this sort of skull face is the new Inquisitor. Super dope looking. And he's not Inquisitor number 6, guys, from the Ahsoka novel. That is not who he is. He's an unnamed Inquisitor. Um, and we
from the early days.
yeah, and we see her battle him as after a member of the village that she was working in ratted her out as a Jedi because it's Order 66 is going on, and she's been living, in disguise, working in this, at this, but no one knowing she's a Jedi. And I guess someone sees her do something and they rat her out. And but the best part of the episode is definitely when the villain shows up, and they're their way too short fight was definitely one of the dopest of the series for me. But overall, yeah, I wasn't really invested in the rest of the characters. So when she decides to call Bail Organa to save them, I didn't really care a whole lot. I never really liked Bail Organa that much in the prequels for some reason. I don't know why. But the confrontation between Bail and Ahsoka at the beginning of the episode was mad cool, though. I, though, again, am so excited about the Dooku shit because I read that Dooku novel, and learning more about Count Dooku, who he was, Darth Tyrannus, who he became, training Qui-Gon Jinn, just holds a special place for me, man. It was just really more exciting to me. So, of course, the real highlight of the series for me was definitely the Dooku arc, especially the second episode. But for those who are familiar with the prequels, Dooku in the prequels, or Clone Wars, was nothing more than a villain, just a regular villain that didn't have a lot to him. We don't learn much about him. He's very two dimensional. He's just a bad guy, and it feels like his whole purpose is just to be the murder that sends Anakin toward the downward spiral to being Darth Vader. But
This is true.
however, right, but however, Tales of the Jedi adds to what those of us fans who read the books might already know about Dooku's past. Not only was he the master of Qui-Gon Jinn, but his belief in prophecies is what influenced Qui-Gon to go to Tatooine in search of Anakin, looking for the chosen one in the first place. That's all Dooku. So, a lot more to him than they ever give us in the movies that we learn in the books, and that we finally get to learn in these episodes. And in the episodes Justice, Choices, and the Sith Lord, we watch Dooku slowly lose his faith in the Jedi Council that refuses to listen to the instinct of its Jedi. Instead of clinging to the rules, at the risk of life and justice, and there are shades of Dooku's dark side. He's not an inherently evil character in the beginning at all. He sees injustice when corruption rewards senators and punishes the regular people. As a peacekeeper, he's conflicted by his duties when his desire to hunt down the truth clashes with the Jedi Council's orders. Obviously, the fourth episode is the one that everybody will be talking about, but the second one was hella cool too. Dooku and young Qui-Gon. At first, I didn't know who that dude was. Qui-Gon, young Qui-Gon. I had no idea who he was at first. I'm like, who is this just throwaway guy that they just threw in here? But it's actually
Damn,
young Qui-Gon,
damn,
and
bro. Throwaway guy. That's how
yeah,
we
he
get
just
down.
he just he just looked like a throwaway Jedi, like a throwaway Padawan. But when you first see him, but yeah,
He was young, bro.
Dooku and young Qui-Gon. Wait, what'd you say?
I said he
You
was
said
young,
Sean?
man. He was young.
Oh, I thought you said
I
Sean.
said
Yeah,
he
he was
was
young.
young, bro. He was young.
He
He
was
was
young.
young, man. Give him credit. It was before the beard. Before the
Yeah,
beard.
yeah, give him a pass for that. But
Yeah, give him
he
pass, man.
they travel to a post-apocalyptical planet where the local citizens have kidnapped their senator's son, just to try to get his damn attention because he's been neglecting them horribly to the point that they're starving and shit. And Dooku rolls up as a representative of the Republic and asks the obvious question: why not just elect a new senator? What are you doing here? But apparently, it's not that simple. The Clone Wars, as well as the prequels, worked best when they showed how the political system in place was actually doing more harm than good. With such a centralized system, and an upper class that lives on only a few planets, it's obvious that many of the worlds will inevitably get left out quickly. And as we know in the real world, that with that hierarchy system in place, people in power will always crave more power, and leaving the rest of us to fend, and take up for ourselves. The Jedi Council, as members of that upper class and inhabitants of those few planets, will never realize it unless their attention is called to it forcefully sometimes. Dooku realizes it, and his shame over his own blindness over what the Jedi Council should really be focused on makes him go into a rage against the senator who he's about to kill, who's clearly corrupt, but Dooku's about to kill him, because he's a symbol of his own worst fears. And remember, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. And this episode is deep with prequel fans because we've always known that Qui-Gon's death was the key that allowed Darth Sidious to finally move forward with his plan, to becoming the Emperor. And the duel of the fates in the Phantom Menace is, as Filoni has described it before, a fight to the death over the destiny of youngling Anakin Skywalker. And while Obi-Wan, came out on top, the argument could be made that Maul actually won that fight because, he defeated Qui-Gon Jinn, and that that one would have prevented Anakin's fall, to the dark side if Qui-Gon would have lived. Um, so in effect, he did complete his mission. But this episode sets up perfectly why that would have been the case, because he was the one that stopped Dooku from going too far. Qui-Gon. And it hints of Dooku's impending, turn to the dark side show as the shows as the as he chokes the senator. He's like force choking the senator like on some Darth Vader shit. Um and he's just like coming at him and just choking the shit out of him. And it's pretty dope. But he says to him, he says, because Qui-Gon sort of intercedes, and but he force pushes Qui-Gon up against the barn wall, like just throws him out of the way, like he's nothing. And he's like, corruption like yours must be eradicated. He's telling the senator before being snapped out of it by his pupil. And it's funny when how when Lucasfilm announced that young Qui-Gon would be voiced by Liam Neeson's son, and that Neeson himself would voice older Qui-Gon. A lot of fans like went crazy, but really Liam Neeson's son had less than a dozen lines in this episode, and Neeson was in just one scene in episode 4, so it wasn't that big a deal. But um, in the next episode, Choices, we see Dooku traveling much closer to the edge when he seems to at least partially excuse some guards who killed a Jedi while rebelling against yet another corrupt senator. Shaken by this, Dooku later asks his brother Mace Windu. He says, "Do you think the Jedi would truly keep the peace if they continued to take everything the Senate says as law?" And the breaking point may occur at the end of the episode when Windu is appointed to the Jedi Council over Dooku, because Mace plays by the rules. He's a goody goody. He does what the council says, and Dooku does not. So if there is one thing Dooku has always been, it's proud, and this is a blow to his ego. Is profound.
In a way, too, Reno, you could say he kind of taught Qui. Because remember, Qui Gon always went against the council
Yeah,
mostly.
yeah,
They were
yeah.
talking,
They were
and you can
rebels.
see where that's right. You can see that's where he got it from.
Yeah, that's where he got it from. Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, you know, no human being it could be a Jedi. The way the Jedi, it's unrealistic. So that's why we relate to Anakin and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, because they go against the council, they go against the Jedi ways just enough, and it humanizes them. It makes them more like how real people are. I mean, real people are not white or black, they're gray. You know what I mean? Like they're not one end or the other. It's very nuanced. People are more complex than that. And so that's why these characters, I think, resonate with us the most, because they're more like us. They're
Right. We
not
can see
villains. They're
ourselves in them.
just
Yeah, we can see ourselves in
exactly
them.
right, right. In the
It's the
second
same thing
episode,
with the same thing with being a Green Lantern. That's why there were never any human Green Lanterns because
right,
it's just too much. Even in the comics, aliens even say like, "Damn, like you from Earth and you a Green Lantern."
right.
Like they're more impressed that
Yeah,
they can even wield the power of the ring because their emotional spectrum is so wide.
right.
It's
Yeah, where humans have such a complex emotional mentality and stuff, and then and whereas a lot of those aliens, they can be more
one or the
logical and
other.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the second episode, we saw how Dooku's fear led to anger, but we see in the third one how his anger over the death of his own people sort of leads to hate. And we see him on the edge of collapse next to young Mace Windu, who was still not in the Jedi Council yet. And finally, in the fourth episode, that hate leads to suffering. After the cold open, we see him in shambles over Qui-Gon's death, because this last episode takes place during the prequels after Qui-Gon is killed. when he's manipulating the records of Camino, where they're making the clones. But soon it will be someone else's suffering that he's dealing with, because and it's interesting how in 3 short episodes we were able to follow Dooku's fall into the dark side, probably even better than Anakin's in the prequels. You know, seeing it happen. It's more laid out. Obviously, we missed all the great nuance that we would have gotten in a full length series, but we still definitely got a lot of subtlety from Dooku in these 3 episodes. But in episode 4, we finally see a moment a lot of fans have been expecting, and that's Yaddle. Uh, Looking better than ever. She was killed after the events of the Phantom Menace, and Dooku was holding
She,
the lightsaber.
and she
Uh,
doesn't talk like Yoda either.
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Because I've always loved seeing the stories where that were happening at the same time of the events of the movies and shows. Because it shows us stuff that they talk about in the movies or referred to in the films, because it's not only gives us deeper insight into what's happening in the galaxy overall. It's just cool as fuck. I just like but like in the Mandalore siege in the Clone Wars show, where we got to see what Anakin and Obi-Wan were up to with everything else going on, the entire book, Lost Stars, and even the short moment in the 5th episode before Rex fake turns Ahsoka in. There was a lot of parallels between this episode uh, and the third act of the prequel film, The Revenge of the Sith, the third movie in the prequels. And it worked great in that scene. The overall story and everything else going on were very solid. And to be honest, low key hard to watch. But one of the best parts of this episode was Kevin Kiner's soundtrack score, which really elevated it to its full potential. And I love when Yaddle lifts the giant door right before she dies, to show that she wasn't going to run away. Um, in the choice of having Yaddle here was kind of interesting. And on one aspect, it brought an extra layer of danger to the episode. We as the audience don't know what happens to her after this point. So everything is on the table. Anything's possible. And we're meant to think that way. At the same time, this is a character we've only seen once, and we are listening to her speak for the first time. And I would have had no idea Bryce Dallas Howard voiced her if it hadn't been announced, because she never talked in the other. But I'm not particularly attached to her, so it's more about my investment in Dooku and seeing his turn from the Jedi Knight to the Sith Lord than anything else. But overall, Tales of the Jedi is a massive win for Lucasfilm and Disney Plus. They really needed this, and they really need to give us a full animated series to fully capture all of Dooku's Jedi years and his long, nuanced turn to the dark side. But Yaddle, let's talk about Yaddle for a second, because it's a hot topic for a lot of fans. Yoda was said to be one of a kind originally by Lucas, and then he gave us Yaddle in the prequels, and nobody liked it. And then we got Grogu, and all that changed. Now everyone wants to know and see more about the mysterious and unnamed species of Yoda. Um, Yaddle was a Jedi Master who sat on the Jedi High Council during the last years of the Galactic Republic before the Empire takes over. And what makes Yaddle stand out from the other characters on the council is the fact that she was effectively a female version of Yoda. Originally, it uh, was created as a sketch for a young Yoda by a concept artist, Ian McCraig. Yaddle eventually became a fan favorite of her own, but it definitely came across as a cheap gimmick to us back in 1999, because after her debut in Phantom Menace, we never saw her again until now. Tales of the Jedi's 4th episode is set during the same time as the Phantom Menace, while running alongside Qui-Gon finding the Sith and his death by Darth Maul. And unfortunately, now we learn that another great Jedi died during that same time without us even knowing it. Yaddle. In the episode The Sith Lord, we see the softer side of Count Dooku, with Dooku being Qui-Gon's former master, and we explore the relationship between them and learn that Dooku was a homie of Yaddle. They was down, and but no one knows that Dooku is falling to the dark side and being drawn in by the Sith. But Yaddle, she's because they're close. She's like suspecting shit. She's seeing shit, and she suspects that something ain't right with him with Dooku. So she tails him one day, and she sees him meeting with a cloaked guy who's the Emperor, but she doesn't know. But it's like, who's this guy in the black hood that he's talking to, and because she knows what that means, and she confronts him, and they have a showdown. They bust it out, complete with some Duel of the Fates inspired music, and it really reminds you of Dooku's fight with Yoda in the Attack of the Clones. So during the fight, Yaddle pleads for Dooku to come back to the light side of the Force, but old Palpatine is in the back, whispering to Dooku, like, do you want to prove your loyalty? Kill her. Do it now, and all that shit. And so now he's officially transitioning from the light side to the dark side of the Force with this one
Yeah.
shot. And now, as Darth Tyrannus, he cuts her down with all of his hatred. And it's a tragic end for yet another prequel trilogy legend, Yaddle. But this also confirms for us that Yaddle resigned from the Jedi High Council because she disagreed with its tyrannical ways. She tells him, "I'm on your side, Dooku. Like, I'm not down with the council either. I left the council. I agree with you. They are full of shit. But she doesn't want him to go completely, Sith on it. Just
Right. She
let's
was.
work it out."
All
Yeah, like she ain't, but it gives us a canonical explanation for why she's replaced by Master Shakti and didn't appear in the movies after Phantom Menace. We know why now. Dooku kills her. Just like Anakin kills Dooku, and that's what sort of turns Anakin to the dark side. This is Dooku killing Yaddle, and that's what turned him to the dark side. So just like the Emperor is sitting there with Anakin, willing him to take off Dooku's head, and that's what turns him. Also, Palpatine is
and you
here.
got
He's
yeah,
standing
and
there,
you got to
and
remember when you got
Dooku
to
to
remember
kill Yaddle.
that was what's your name's force power as well. I remember that was Palpatine was
Right.
manipulation. Whenever he
He
talks to you, he's
he's inspi
manipulating
he's
you,
like,
right? He's
yeah,
inspiring you to do whatever it
inspiring
is, the
do it.
worst that you can do. So when he was telling him, remember when he told him to cut off Dooku's head, remember how he said it? He was like,
Mhm.
"Do it." He's talking to,
That's the thing.
and
He's
then he
like, "Do
said,
it,
"Do it."
do it,
Yeah. Then he
do it."
right. Then you see he came out a little bit, and then he caught himself
Yeah,
and was like, "Oh." And then that's when
yeah,
Anakin did it, and
yeah.
he's kind of confused. He's like, I don't understand why I did that. Like I don't get it,
Word. Like,
but I
that's
did
not the
it.
way. It's not the
Right,
Jedi
that ain't the
way.
way. But he was
But
being manipulated. Even when they were in the theater, and he was talking to him about bringing Padme back to life, he was manipulating him in.
oh,
He was
yeah.
just talking
Hell
to
yeah,
him.
he
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to remember that's
Tragedy
why.
the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. That's all manipulation. That's
Yeah,
his power is force manipulation,
yeah.
manipulation.
And
Like
remember when
Jedi mind tricks.
remember when Mace Windu told him, "Don't listen to him, don't let him talk,"
Right.
because once he starts talking, he's manipulating. He's using his
Yep,
force power.
yep.
That's his. Because every Jedi has something that they're good at, or even Sith.
Mhm.
It's just one. There's one thing that they excel at more than anything
It's
else.
something that they're force sensitive
Right? They're
to.
even more sensitive than
Mhm.
was
That's right.
force manipulation.
Yeah.
The Jedi mind trick. He could fool you
Yeah.
into doing whatever he wanted you to do.
Yeah. And so he's there, and he basically manipulates him into killing Yaddle, and that's sort of the catalyst as what sort of, puts him over the top. And, but so she's out. But modern Star Wars has done a great job of adapting older legends canon, like Boba Fett's escape from the Sarlacc pit. That's good that they did. I like that they're reaching to the legends canon. That's where it really needs to come from, guys. That's where you're going to get your best Star Wars material. And Yaddle's death in the old continuity happens very differently. So this is new. Back in 2003, a young adult novel called Jedi Quest: The Shadow Trap Yaddle dies at the age of 48, which what? Grogu's 50.
Yeah, that
So
can't be. Greg was 50, right? Yeah. She should be, yeah,
yeah.
she should be a
So
whole lot younger.
so they're not thinking, but absorbing a bioweapon while accompanying Anakin and Obi-Wan on a mission to Mawan, but sort of revamping her death for something more dramatic with Dooku makes hella sense. And but since she spoke the same way as Yoda did in the Legends books, there's a second change that's going to be too much for some Star Wars canon purists. Basically, a lot of fans are confused to why Yaddle speaks normally now, but there is a sort of reason. Yaddle is voiced by Bryce Dallas Howard, who is a big deal in Star Wars. Having directed episodes of The Mandalorian, and arguably the best one of the Book of Boba Fett. Yaddle never even had a speaking part in the Phantom Menace, but most of us assumed that she would talk like in the same riddled tones that Yoda's famous for. Um, but we shouldn't have expected her to use her normal voice. We should have expected her to just speak normally because 2021's canon novel, The High Republic, Out of the Shadows, had Yaddle speaking like any other Jedi, and that's the reason why Yaddle speaks normally. Because in that, and let me tell you something, okay? This is why I hate that High Republic stuff. I'm gonna tell you because the creators and writers over there are clueless and were literally hired because they know nothing of Star Wars. I mean, this is the same group who wrote that death sticks to be like cigarettes. There's a scene in one of High Republic where they're like someone's smoking death sticks. Dude, any fan who knows that death sticks are a drug in Star Wars. You don't smoke it. It's like a liquid. It's a little anyways. So they have they have a character that's literally a boulder, like a rock. Okay, not a rock like alien creature, a actual stone boulder.
Mhm.
Okay. How creative, And this is a group that believes you can never shoot down any writer's idea, or it would possibly shame their creativity. So any idea that they throw up on the board gets, oh, got to use it because we can't shame them and say that idea sucks ass because it does and it's ridiculous. But thankfully we have Dave Filoni to shed some light on why the change to canon's diction was made for Disney canon, and it's basically because the morons at the High Republic did it. Because they don't know anything about Star Wars. So this is terrible, and it is tragedy. And she should have spoken like Yoda because he's the come on. But Filoni said that when Howard asked about Yaddle's voice, he said, "Does she speak backwards?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think so. I think that's a Yoda thing." Frank Oz told me once that Yoda speaks that way specifically in honor of his own master. That was what he had thought about it. I try to keep moving forward these thoughts. That's end quote. That's what Dave Filoni said. So, but Legends novels established a serpent type alien Jedi named Nakata del Gormo as Yoda's master. Although he's a High Zalarian, but his diction was never explored in the Legends stories. So it's not clear how Yoda ultimately ended up developing that unique style of talking, but nonetheless, vocal confusion aside, you might remember those wild theories that Yoda and Yaddle got busy, and that's where we got Grogu. Uh, but since she dies in Tales of the Jedi, we find out now it looks like that's another tinfoil hat conspiracy, like Jar Jar Binks being a Sith. For now, Yaddle is just another name etched into the Jedi Council's in memoriam wall. As Filoni wraps up another long-standing Star Wars mystery for us. But yeah, man. For anyone that's been around for a while, keeping up with Star Wars stories, especially shows like the Clone Wars, your opinion on how effective the Jedi Council is may vary. The Jedi eventually become the Senate's lapdogs, basically. often aiding in their corruption, even unintentionally. But despite their mastery of the Force, none of them could tell that Palpatine was Darth Sidious, or that many of their own were turning to the dark side. Tales of the Jedi shines a light on the ignorance of the Jedi and how their unflexible nature ultimately led to their doom. So this anthology series fits perfectly into the existing Star Wars universe. And at one point in an episode, a character who had become disillusioned with the Jedi lays it out clearly for Dooku. He says, Jedi are lapdogs of the Senate. Their bidding always comes first. It's evident throughout the galaxy. Jedi claim peace, but mostly keep law and order for the rich and powerful. And this statement, while not completely true, is also not false. Many Jedi blindly followed the council, who blindly did the bidding of the Senate. And it's how Palpatine was able to manipulate the Jedi so easily. And
Right.
it's this, yeah, it's this
Yeah,
blind,
they might not agree with it, but they did it
yeah,
regardless of what it, like even when Anakin used to ask Obi-Wan questions like, "Why are we even doing this? Like, why can't we just?"
yeah,
And Obi-Wan be like, "Look,
the
like
council.
we're Jedi. This is what we're supposed to do, and we're gonna do it." And so, even when Luke Skywalker had questions about the Jedi Order, and then Yoda burnt all the novels with the Force lightning, he was like, "Look, like let that go, man, because that's what made us. That's what got us in the predicament we in now.
Don't get
Let's
me
just let it
started.
go. We gotta do some new stuff. So it is
Yeah,
what it is."
but yeah, that Dooku was especially like Dooku is one of his reasons why he does go to the dark side. Is it's why Palpatine was able to pull Anakin and Dooku so easily because they're disillusioned. Like they're seeing that the council. It's ironic because they're seeing that the good ways of the Jedi they're not really following it. They're seeing that they're corrupt, and it's their sort of anger and shame that they're part of this corruption and anger at them that they're easily talked into turning to the dark side with what's his name with Palpatine. So led by hubris, even naivete. At one point, Dooku questions Mace Windu about whether their job as peacekeepers conflicts with what the Senate sometimes says is law. And Windu simply replies that they are guided by the council, not by politics or ego. And this blind acceptance, without realizing that Republic politics are pulling the strings of every act the Jedi take, is what eventually leads to the slaughter of all the Jedi. And while both stories are strong on their own, it's combined that we see the strength in Tales of the Jedi. And this is not a show about the adventures of the illustrious Jedi.
No,
It's a cautionary tale and a tragic one. Um,
right. And
yeah,
also one of those in between stories that we always ask for but never got.
right, right,
Um,
right, because it touches on some of the best stories that come from shows like Clone Wars and Rebels.
right. Just like we always ask for things that happen between Star Wars and Empire
Mm-hmm.
that we never got, and Empire Return. There's a lot of things that happen in between them.
Yeah,
So that
the
we never
between
got,
stuff.
but always ask. Yeah, we always ask for it, but we never ever got it. So we'll see if
Yeah.
they give us that. Maybe we might get Dash Rendar. You never know.
I mean, they're making me happy with every time they pull something from Legends. I'm like, fuck you, Kathleen. I'm like, in your face, Kathleen. Yeah, because yeah, she didn't want that shit, but that's all we want. That's all we want, and we're starting to get it. And with Filoni, we can sort of depend on getting some of that. So that's a good thing, and I can't wait. Can't wait. I will say, Marvel Comics does a lot of great Star Wars stuff that's not the High Republic. Unfortunately, because it's Marvel and because Marvel's owned by Disney and Disney owns Lucasfilm and they're all in cahoots and they are having to stick with not only the sequel trilogy's ridiculous canon, but now the High Republic's absurd canon. And so, unfortunately, we are going to get a lot of crap. But spoiler alert for Star Wars Dr. Aphra number 25. But this is really cool. I wanted to talk about the lightsaber's greatest weakness has officially returned to Jedi Star Wars, to Star Wars lore. Because
Yeah, I
the
just
Jedi's
read
light,
that.
what'd
Yeah,
you
I
say?
just read it. No, I said I just got that.
Yeah, yeah,
Just trying to
yeah,
read it. I didn't get a chance to read it yet, but I knew what it was about. That's why I picked it up just so I can
yeah. Dr. Aphra
definitely.
number 25 is a good one. Because a Jedi's lightsaber is not just their greatest weapon, it's also like a meditative tool. Because the Jedi bonds with the kyber crystal that's inside every lightsaber, and every lightsaber carries the echo of the Jedi who wielded it, like a sense of their presence. Which is why the Jedi of the High Republic era venerated the lightsabers of fallen Jedi, and it's why the lightsaber of Anakin Skywalker became so important in the sequel trilogy. So we learn now. Do I think for a second that anyone making the sequel trilogy or any of the High Republic stuff knew this? No, but I think it, luckily for them, is a great explanation of it. But lightsabers are not without their weaknesses, because there are certain types of radiation that can disrupt the lightsaber circuits, preventing the blade from channeling the power of the kyber crystal that's in it. Fortunately, this particular weakness is very obscure, and very difficult to duplicate. So the Sith would never use it because it would fuck up their own lightsabers. But Star Wars comics have just reintroduced the lightsabers pretty much greatest weakness, that dates back to the old expanded universe, from Legends and stuff. And so it's Star Wars Dr. Aphra number 25 by Alisa Wong, and it reveals the secret of the ancient weapon known as the Sith Killer. And this was fashioned a millennia ago by a cult known as the Ascendant, who wanted to replicate Sith abilities using technology, much like the Mandalorians did with the Jedi. The reason Mandalorians have jetpacks and flamethrowers and all that stuff they have, it's to combat Jedi force powers like force push and force jump and all that stuff. And the flamethrower is because lightsabers negate blaster shots. They can block blaster shot, but they can't block a flamethrower. So there's a lot of stuff. So a lot of cultures or a lot of warrior cultures are built around combating and counteracting force users like the Sith and the Jedi. Hunted by the Sith, the Ascendant constructed a blade out of a rare ore called cortosis. And you've heard of cortosis if you've read any Star Wars novels. It's a fibrous material capable of absorbing energy. And the Ascendant planned the Sith Killer to be in a blade to blade fight, knowing that a lightsaber that struck it would lose power for a period of time. Unfortunately, the original Sith Killer was of limited use because cortosis is too brittle and the blade tended to break. Um, the Ascendant cult wanted to design a weapon to be used against the Sith, producing a final version of Sith Killer that's just been unearthed by Dr. Aphra during the original trilogy era. If you guys don't read Dr. Aphra, she's an archaeologist in the Star Wars universe that kind of works for Darth Vader. And she goes around but she found this, she finds the Sith Killer and sees that it neutralized her lightsaber, because but the old Star Wars expanded universe gives us other ways that for it to be used. Those aware of cortosis effect on lightsabers often aligned their structures with cortosis as a way of ensuring Jedi and Sith could not break into rooms, like putting it in doorways or walls or whatever. And these could then be backed up by defensive weapons and traps. With force sensitives, understandably taken aback when their lightsabers failed them, like what's going on? They wouldn't know because, like, again, this is a rare thing. So, and it's also easy to imagine other ways cortosis could be used. Um, had the separatists known about cortosis, or they could have easily coated their battle droids with cortosis, and that would have certainly made their battle droids far more formidable. Like when the and when because they've effectively been immune to lightsabers, right? So fighting the Jedi, that would have been a major advantage, and that surprise would have given the droids an opportunity to cut the Jedi down with ease, because Jedi can consider themselves fortunate in this particular secret was not canonized, or rather was not common knowledge. But the Sith killer in the hands of a rogue like Afra, Dr. Afra, it's clear that there's now at least one lightsaber beating weapon loose in the galaxy, uh, that Dr. Afra is rocking. Why? Um, oh, and but speaking of lightsabers, Tales of the Jedi makes a crucial change to Mace Windu's lightsaber, which, remember, his saber is like
Pink,
it's
almost.
purple,
I know.
but
It's just
it got
it's the only one of its kind.
yeah, it got cut off. His arm got cut off while he was holding it. But while Count Dooku's investigations are successful in identifying the killers of the Jedi in the episode, his actions also result in the death of a Republic senator. And for this reason, following the assignment, the council gave Mace Windu to replace Master Katari, the Jedi whose body the duo recovered. And it's an important moment in defining the paths of both Jedi. While Mace Windu will go on to become a senior member of the council, integral to the Jedi's role in the Clone Wars, Dooku's resentment drives him closer to the dark side. But they while investigating the death of Master Katri, Mace Windu and Dooku learned that she was ambushed by her allies that were supposed to be working with her. They ambushed her, and her own troops sort of turned on her. And while Dooku's initial suspicions appear to fall on Senator Larrick, the politician that she was protecting, he reveals himself that his guards turned on Katari, and as soon as he makes his confession, he gets killed by one of his guards, because they don't want him to say anything else. But it's kind of stupid because then now they know. But it's the first on-screen appearance of Dooku's blue-bladed lightsaber, because he always has a red one in the movie, but before he was a Sith, he was a Jedi, so he had the blue one. But Mace Windu's is also slightly different. Um, its distinctive purple lightsaber is there, but the design of the weapon differs very slightly from its appearance in the Clone Wars and the prequel trilogy. The differences aren't really obvious and could easily be missed, as the episode doesn't place a great deal of focus on Windu's weapon. But if you're a keen-eyed fan, you might notice that his lightsaber hilt is missing the gold colored detailing
Hmm.
that was always previously been present, and there's a good reason. In Star Wars canon, the gold colored detailing on Mace Windu's lightsaber comes from an electrum finish on the weapon. Electrum is a form of blue and purple hued crystal in Star Wars universe, and when used as a finish, it gives the metal a reflective golden coloring. Among the members of the Jedi Order, only senior members of the High Council were permitted to add electrum to their lightsabers. So if you had electrum on your lightsaber, it was a symbol of your high position and title. So, as such, it was after Mace Windu's appointment to the Jedi Council that he added the electrum plating to his weapon. So, if you are wondering why he didn't have the gold on his lightsaber, it's because he wasn't yet a council member in that scene, in that episode.
Mm. Very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. Hmm. Indeedy, indeedy. Oh, Mandalorian. Speaking of the Mandalorian, Benedict Cumberbatch. Uh, oh wait, I already showed you guys that one. That was Benedict Cumberbatch as Thrawn. Kanan Jarrus from Rebels. Luke Skywalker and Kanan Jarrus are related? No. Yeah, but let me see. There was something about Black Adam too. Oh, no, that's just that Dwayne Johnson didn't he didn't want Shazam in any of his in that movie, but um on some hip hop and comic shit, Ryan Coogler used Kendrick Lamar in the trailer for Wakanda Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Not by mistake. It was born out of his love for 90s hip hop. The trailer gives a mashup of Bob Marley's No Woman No Cry and Kendrick Lamar's All Right. And as for why Thames was able to land a spot, Kugler explained that they were already working with her in Nigeria and that her career has blown up as of late because he also used her shit. But God, it's amazing how young that dude is, man. He said we were taking very seriously how we would come back to audiences, you know, um, with this movie. Coogler told Hip Hop DX, and he said, and that trailer is that first sign of what the film is going to be. And it was very important that we didn't misrepresent it. You know, we leaned into what the audience was going to get without giving away the movie. We wanted to protect the viewing experiences, and I thought that a song would be a great way to do it, but I wanted to do a song in a new way. He said, we were going to Nigeria to work with Thames in her career has just skyrocketed in the last few years, and we were excited about that. And we thought, what if we had Thames to do a cover of No Woman No Cry? So we met up with Thames in her hotel room in Lagos, and with her team, she covered the Bob Marley song beautifully with Ludwig Göransson producing, and we put it together. I've never been a producer in my career of introducing a film to an audience in that way. Oh, I'm sorry. I've never been prouder in my career of introducing a film to an audience in that way. Not sure what he means by that, but for Kendrick Lamar, Coogler's connection was personal, recalling listening to Father MC and Jodeci's "Everything's Gonna Be All Right," as well as Naughty by Nature's "Ghetto Bastard." He said, "Really, the '90s is when I really." That's got to be. Well, I'm going to read what it says. Really, in the '90s is when I really consuming music. And what I remember
Yes.
about the '90s is that bridge started. Everything is gonna be all right would pop back up in songs. There was Father MC with Jodeci. My parents had the CD for that. Everything is gonna be all right. Let the music take control. I remember loving that song. Man, this guy, he's so young. Uh He added, then there was the Naughty by Nature song, Ghetto Bastard. Everything's going to be all right. So I was thinking about how just the bridge on No Women translated, and that Kendrick's All Right was an evolution of that bridge, but a more declarative version of it. So what if we did a direct true line in the trailer? And that's how the idea was born. And then Coogler recently discussed Rihanna's involvement in the soundtrack because they really were really proud of that. They were talking that up big, like it's this big deal that Rihanna's on the "Lift Me Up" is her song. He explained that he wanted an artist who could speak to the feeling of motherhood. So that's those will be some cool. But yeah, man, it's dope to see hip hop and comics uh, together on the big screen. I love
Always,
when I really see hip hop in comic book movies.
always.
And it just don't have to be Black Panther, okay? Hollywood. It don't have to be Black Panther to put hip hop in it, okay? Because hip hop and comics have always been together. So come on, dog. You can do better than that. But we gonna wrap it up, man. This was our show. We had a lot of fun today. It's been 2 hours and 15 minutes. Today's Wednesday, November 2nd. Guys, every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Saturday, Sixth Element Hip Hop is live starting at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we rock until we don't want to rock no more. But listen, guys, please, if you're in the chat right now, leave a comment in the comment section. If you're watching this on the replay, leave a comment in the comment section. If you came in live and we were already going, run it back, watch it from the beginning. A lot of great content on this show, on this episode. Peace, Norn Rad. Peace to everybody in the chat. Slade Wilson. Salute to everybody, the Six Elementals, for coming and kicking it as always. And we'll see you guys Saturday. Peace.
Hey.